Hi YouTube, welcome back to the third episode of the Volvo A40 build. So in this episode I was hoping to finish off the front chassis and finish the electronics and have a working RC. There's still a lot of work to do, so I'm just going to jump right into it and get going. So I'm going to begin press fitting all the bearings. So I'm going to screw off this piece and this one. That way I can press fit all the bearings inside here. So with all these parts dismounted, I can begin working on the steering motor. So this is the specs on the steering motor. And I have to bring this outside in my garage because I use the drill that I have there, and I'm going to drill a hole in this axle shaft. That way this motor coupler will sit tighter and hopefully never get loose. So here's what I've done so far. I've connected all the battery wires on the ESCs together, so they all connect to the same battery. And I've removed the red wire on 2 of these ESCs so that only one has power to the receiver. So if you're running multiple ESCs on an RC like I'm doing here, I recommend that you remove the red wire going into the receiver on all ESCs except for one. You only want one ESC to power the receiver. And I also hooked up this connector to the battery cables. That way I can put some lights or something at 12 volts or the same power as the battery. So it's not really needed, but it's there just in case. And this will be the battery plug. I'll solder on the battery plug in just a minute. I'm also going to solder on this connector for the steering motor, and I'm going to cut these 2 wires. And we are going to reuse these wires on the front axle. So here you can see the motor wires for the front axle. I'm going to explain this because I have 2 different plugs here, and the long ones will go to the ESC, and these other ones will actually go to the rear axles. So the wires coming from the rear will go into these small connectors right here, and that's because if the motors are spinning the wrong way, I'll just reverse these 2 wires and it's all good. So that's why I do this. It's super easy to adjust everything once everything is connected. Alright, so now that the electronics is ready for installation, I'm going to mount the front chassis onto the rear chassis. However, before I do that, I'm going to just assemble the front wheels. Now, I'm not using beadlock wheels on the front tires, so these are super easy to install. You just slide them in and press, like so. And they will snap into place on the tires. Now I'm going to mount these onto the front chassis, and then we can mount the front chassis to the rear chassis. So I'm outside and I'm repairing or trying to repair the hood. So hopefully it will look nicer now. So for those wondering about the Volvo emblem, that's just a Volvo pin for hats on clothing. So anyway, the hood is now finished and ready for mounting to the cabin. I just have to assemble the cabin first. All the windows are now installed on the cabin, and I can begin putting on the covers. So here we have the interior with a driver, and the cabin is almost finished. I can't find the mirrors for it, so I must have forgotten to print them. Anyway, I'm printing them now, and I'll mount them up later in the build. Right now I gotta put a hole on the interior to put this wire through, and then we can put the cabin onto the chassis. Alright, so it's time to do the electronics. So the first step will always be to bind the receiver to the transmitter. So I put the bind plug in BVCC and we turn on the transmitter. And then we find the ESC with the red wire, this one. We just plug it into random port. And then when I plug in the battery, the receiver will begin flashing quickly. There you can see. And that means that the receiver is in bind mode. So now we go into the menu, System, RX Bind, Bind OK. So now they are bound together, and we can remove the bind plug. Alright, so I'm going to begin hooking up the ESCs to their functions. And this looks a bit messy, but trust me, I know where everything should go. So we will begin with the ESC that I just plugged in. The first thing I'll do is check which channels I want to drive forward with this one. And you can see that's channel 2. And I want to be able to steer with this one, which is channel 4. So let's begin with this one on channel 2. I want this one to be the drive motors. And if I remember correctly, the motor wires with the red tape on it, is the tipping motor. So I'm going to be using the yellow ones. And these are the wires from the front axle. Now I'm going to plug in the rear axle motors into these same wires as the front axle motors. And if the front tires and the rear tires spin different ways, then I'll just reverse these two wires. So this is the ESC that I'm plugging in the drive motors to. There we go. And I can test it too and show you. We can check if the tires spin against each other. And they do. Perfect. So now I can show you. I just reversed these two wires. Like this. Alright, so I must have missed something when I installed these two motors on the front axle, because if you look closely, they spin against each other. So this sometimes happens. I've cross-wired these motors like I always do, but sometimes the poles are reversed on the motors themselves. So now I have to open up this cover and just rewire the wires between the motors. Now I didn't test the front axle before I mounted it up, and this is kind of, yeah, this is all my fault, but if you watch closely, I'm going to zoom in here. You can see that the wires are cross mounted, and the rear axle, both rear axles are mounted the same way as this. So it's kind of strange. Sometimes this is the correct way and sometimes it's not. So anyway, I'm going to rewire these the correct way now, and we can continue the build. Oh, and this also shows you how easy it is to maintain the motors on these models. You just take off the cover and you can access the wires and swap out the motors too if you need to do that without dismounting a lot of parts. So I've resoldered the wires and hopefully this works now. I'm going to test it. Yes, everything is now working, so I'll reassemble the cover and we can move on. So now we can connect the tipping system to a channel, but first I'm going to set up the channel. So we go to function and stop flickering. And we go down to aux channels. I'm sorry about the flickering, guys. I can't stop it. It's the camera. There we go. So I'm putting the tipping system on channel 5 and I want it to be on this shoulder button. You can see here that it's called VRB. So we press this and we go to VR and we select VRB. And now I'm going to connect the tipping system to this ESC. So I'll plug this into channel 5, which is this one. And then I plug the motor wires for the tipping system into that ESC. So now I'm going to plug in the battery and test the tipping motor. And when I press this one up, I want the tipper box to go up. And it doesn't, so I'm going into reverse and I'm going to reverse channel 5. Here you can see the end switch is working. And now I'm going to make sure that it works when I press down. And it works. So the tipping system is now functional. And I'm going to turn it down actually. I go to endpoints and I scroll down to channel 5 and I put it down to 70%. There we go, so that's the tipping system. And now, if you remember, I have the steering on channel 4. So the last ESC is used for the steering, so I'm putting that in channel 4. And then I plug the ESC for the steering motor into the steering motor like so. And it should now be steering. And I have to reverse the channel because when I turn left it turns right. So I reverse channel 4. There we go. Alright, so all the main functions are now functional, and I'm going to just test drive it on the bench and see if it works the way I want it to. And after that I'm going to begin plugging in the lights and sound. Alright, so the steering motor is a little aggressive, so I'm turning it down on endpoints and I'm going down to 70%. And it's a lot better now, but I think the set screw has gotten loose. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to look at the set screw after I've plugged in the sound and stuff, but that's a quick fix. I'll do it later. Alright, so I'm installing one of these light switches it's a 2-channel switch, and it can operate 2 different light systems at the same time. So if you look closely, I'm going to zoom in here. You can see that it says plus, minus, plus. So that means that the plus is on the outside pins and the minus is in the middle. So I'm going to run 2 different light sources on this thing, and I'll show you how I connect them. Let's see here. This is one of them. This is the roof lights. So I connect the black wire to the middle pin, you can see, because minus is in the middle. And I'm also going to connect this one. Let's see here. Like this. Alright. And now I'm plugging this light switch into channel 6. And then I go to function and I scroll down to aux channels, select channel 6, and I'm going to use this switch SWA. So I select SWA. So now the light switch is ready to work, and I'm going to test it. Alright, so it works. Perfect. So now I'm going to move on to the sound unit, and it will also operate a few lights, like the lights on the hood and the rear. Oh man, this is going to be fun. Alright, so I've got the light schematics here, and we can see that there are red rear lights are on the third connector, which should be the third one from the bottom. And I think I'll figure this out. I'm just gonna install this into the dumper first, and we'll take it from there. Alright guys, so this looks a bit messy, but I'll try to run you through it and how I connected everything. So let's begin with this wire right here. As you can see, it's the one on the top in this corner, and this is where you connect the drive motor ESC. As you can see, this wire follows down into this ESC right here, and then you connect the blue wire from the sound system into the channel that you operate the drive motors with. So in my case, that's channel 2. So I plug that in channel 2, and this will operate the driving motors, and you will get motor sound on that channel. And also another useful thing is that you can't actually run the truck without starting the engine this way, if you plug it in this way. Let me show you. There we go. So if I press forward, nothing will happen. You see? So I gotta start the motor, and I started with this one. Okay, so that's how the drive motors work. And as you saw, I start the sounds with this one, which is the yellow cable, which is the start and stop sound for the sound unit. And I have it at channel 7. And then we've got this green wire, which operates the lights, all of these. So I have it on this one. I didn't connect any lights yet, but you can hear the sound. So you can operate 2 light channels with this wire, the green one. You can press the switch up and down. I'm going to connect the lights afterwards. I'm just going to run through this first. And then we've got this one. I'm not sure what this one does yet, but we'll see. Alright, so this wire is actually for the settings. You can adjust sounds and stuff on this. I'll show you how to do that. So in order to get into the settings mode, you press and hold forward when the sound is off.
Settings.
And it will talk to you. It will go into settings mode. And if it's in Chinese, you press through the menu by pressing upward. So you keep pressing upward until you hear it say language. Okay? And then you can switch to English by using whatever channel you plug this into. In my case, it's channel 9. Okay, so I got it on this switch.
Volume adjustment. Already maximum. Already maximum. Decrease volume. Decrease volume. Increase volume. Decrease volume. Increase volume. Decrease volume.
So you scroll through the menus with the main stick, and then you scroll through the options on the menus with this one.
Engine sound.
So I'm going to leave it at this one.
Horn sound.
This is the horn sound. I'm just going to leave it at that one.
Sound of turning signal. On, off. Sound of reversing drive. Turbine sound on, off, off, on. Language, volume adjustment.
So in order to get out of settings, you press and hold forward.
Engine sound, exit settings.
Now everything has been saved, and you can start the motor, and you can use this as you want. So I'm going to try to connect the lights now and see how that works. So I think I have everything connected the way it should. So we got the red rear lights going into this channel, and reverse white lights are going into this channel. So these are the channels, and let's go back here and see. Yeah, so we have red lights at least. Nothing happens when I hit reverse. Maybe I have to okay, so now I have reverse on forward. Let's see here. Alright guys, so if you have this problem that you press forward and you get the reverse lights on, this is what you have to do. You stop the engine, you press this switch, you know, the one you push for to get settings, you press it forward 5 times until you hear a sound. You hear that click, and now it's been reversed again. So now it's normal. You see? So if I want to switch this channel around again, I press it down 5 times. You hear that sound? You see? All right. So now we have that figured out. We can try mounting up the hood and putting the lights on. So according to this, these 2 channels should be here and here. So we have front lights, and if I've connected everything, yeah. Alright, so I can adjust the front lights by pressing this switch up, and nothing happens when I press down, but that's okay. And if you hold the switch up, I think they'll go into disco mode, yeah. Alright, perfect. Okay, so there's not much left on this build. I did go ahead and tidy it up a bit on the inside. As you can see, I created a super simple battery tray. That's from a metal plate, and I used tape on the edges so that the wires don't get roughed up. So yeah. Now I'm going to continue mounting up the parts. We are missing the handrails and the roof rail, and we're also missing the mirrors and some steps on the backside here, and the decals. We are missing the decals too. So let's go ahead and mount up the rest. So this time I've printed the steps in TPU, so they are a bit more flexible. And there it is, guys, the Volvo A40. So the Volvo A40 is now finished, and I gotta say I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. Unfortunately, this is the end of this episode and the end of this build series, but we still have to test the dumper, and I'll put up another episode of the dumper in action where we test it and you can see how it performs and how it works. Anyway guys, that's it for now. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.